Welcome to the Design Diaries podcast today. I've got a very interesting speaker and a topic that's near and dear to my heart, as it is in everything to do with design. Today joining us is Nisha. Nisha, tell us something about yourself, something that is somewhat of a interesting tidbit you want to share.
Hi, my name is Nisha. I am a user researcher at SAP as part of the core design team here. And my background was in cognitive science with human-computer interaction, but my journey into UX research has been a little bit atypical or non-linear, starting in more of like a content strategy role and then pivoting into a product management fellowship and then coming to user research here. But research and design has always been something I've been passionate about. And
that's great, Nisha. So, I mean, you explained your journey a little bit from HCI to content strategy to product management to user research. And now you're doing that as a practice and you're focused on the craft. Why did you choose to continue with this craft?
It's something that I've always been intrigued by, was just kind of hearing different people's stories and different people's frustrations, pain points, how they're interacting with different products, and just hearing people's stories and being able to kind of collect and articulate all of that information into a story of its own, and to help inform, making sure that products and services are on the right path and informing design decisions and things like that. So I think that's always been something that has drawn me to user research, is being able to talk to people, being able to really listen to people, and hearing different perspectives.
And I think your background in cognitive psych is also kind of adding to that belief system. But how do you explain what you do to your nephew or a young one, a 6-year-old, or let's say to your grandmom? Because it's not really a new field, but it's still an evolving field. And what's your stance at?
I think I would explain it like if they're playing with a toy or a game, understanding, my job would be to kind of maybe observe how they interact with that toy or game, maybe understand why they are playing with that game, how they're playing with the game, maybe understanding what they like and dislike about the game, what makes them frustrated when playing with it, what they absolutely love about it, and kind of taking that and maybe asking all of their friends as well, and taking all of that information and taking it back to the makers of the game, and really helping to make maybe V2 of the game even better. So I guess that's how I would explain it to a 6-year-old.
I tried explaining to my grandma when I was, into my early days, and she wasn't getting it. And I eventually figured out that I need to probably speak to her in the language she understands. And she was a great cook, and she got a lot of joy out of cooking for friends and families. Right. And she wanted it to be perfect. So, and I had to explain to her that if you're cooking something and you're cooking for your close family for an occasion, wouldn't it be a good idea to ask them what are the kind of things that they're looking for in the cuisine or in the final outcome? And if you knew that, won't you be able to change up your recipe just for that? And she got that. She's like, okay, that makes sense.
I love that example. I should take that back to my grandma.
Yeah, so I tried that a little bit. And, in doing so, one of the things you mentioned was about the 6-year-old interaction, like you're going to explain the process. Life is a little bit of a toy for all of us. We get a lot of pleasure out of playing with things, experimenting, learning. So in the spirit of a user researcher or a designer for that matter, having this 6-year-old mentality in our head where you love to break things up and like to challenge status quo. When you use your day-to-day devices, apps, products, etc., can you share a little bit about maybe one of those things, either an app or a product or a thing that you use, that you go, this is great? And if you could articulate that, I would also follow up with the question of why do you think it's great?
I think a recent product that I've really enjoyed personally is my AirPods Max. I think for me, as someone who enjoys listening to music, but whose ears are not fit for the tiny little AirPods that I keep losing on every, plane journey, or when I'm trying to run or exercise or turn my head the wrong way and it falls out. And I think it was kind of a game changer to really feel comfortable for me, but also to have incredible sound quality and incredible and easy access to, connecting and pairing with all of my devices. And it's great to tune out other people if I need to ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're suggesting is that your love of that device is based on the fact that it's starting to get to know your individual taste, where you stop certain things, where you don't continue. It's an extension of your, self in the digital world. So fantastic. So it requires some thought on why would users not only use it, but what other things can we add to a product or solution that will help make it sticky for our users, so that our users will use it more and more. And that's, I appreciate the fundamental belief that you bring in. And as you apply that to your day-to-day job, so let's talk about SAP for a second. You worked on many different products and solutions, as well as in design systems, etc. If you think back in time and maybe pick a couple of examples in your history so far, where you've worked, it led to outcomes that you're either very excited about or proud of. Can you share a few of those?
Yeah, I think part of what I love about the core design team is that, we're able to work on so many different products and areas. And so, with SAP being such a large company, I feel like I'm still learning every day as to what some of these different applications and products do and how different teams are structured, how, where they are in the product lifecycle. I think all of that is a constant learning process. I can think back to going on site to a customer and understanding and working with them on redesigning a kind of a new vision for the future of a travel and expense homepage. And especially with AI coming into play so much in all of the companies and technology these days, kind of understanding where that personalized intelligence can be effective and helpful, and where it can be a little bit hindering, especially when, it's something that people are still getting adjusted to and different people use and trust differently. So I think kind of seeing firsthand how different people used their travel and expense page and searching for travel and things like that differently, and understanding, where they would want kind of assistance or something to kind of understand and know exactly what they need at that moment, and where it maybe might become a little borderline creepy or invasive or a little too much.
Yeah, you touched on a very important topic about seeing certain users in action, getting customers' feedback in their context and habitat, and including their diverse perspectives into the research and design process. So let's be honest, inclusion can be hard, especially when you have deadlines to meet, you have research to do. What's your take at how does sort of inclusive research work or should work in the context of what we do or you do in your research practice?
I think it's something that we are still trying to uncover and make a little bit better every day. Having a diverse set of participants in every project that we're working on, whether that be like from a perspective of where they're from, or where, novice to power user to different. And of course, each project has its own needs, but I think really making sure that we're tapping into the target end user for that product, and knowing that might include people who aren't like ourselves or are different in different ways. And so recruiting is always kind of a challenge in user research, I think, at many companies. And so I think that's something that we're constantly trying to learn how to improve and to think a little bit outside of the box of, who we're talking to, and making sure that it's not kind of biased in one direction, and hoping that, we can use more and more in the future to be able to access a more broad range of audiences.
Love the pointers around diverse set of participants, tooling, the considerations. In fact, some of them are now part of our inclusive research handbook that we are leveraging inside SAP. So I can totally relate to some of the things you're saying, and to hear you put it in context of the work we do actually brings a lot of hope, because one of our jobs at SAP for that matter is to build experiences that are global, universal, and for that we need to kind of make sure that diversity becomes the secret sauce behind creating those meaningful experiences. So fundamental truth there. Nisha, I'd like to thank you for joining in on the podcast. Wonderful conversations. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks, Arvind.